I don't think they're going to stop watching WWE and watch AEW because WWE went head-to-head with AEW.
No, they're not. But if AEW's the better show and WWE's going head-to-head with them, and WWE loses when they go head-to-head, or they have no impact, like probably on Sunday, I don't think that's a good look for WWE whatsoever. And it's a story. And it's a bigger story. Going to be a bigger story on July the 12th when that's a big day, and that's a really big day, because WWE's loading up with 2 freaking shows on the same day. That's, and a pay-per-view the next day. They moved their pay-per-view. They added a show to go head-to-head because AEW had moved, and they got Saturday night's main event, which perhaps is the Bill Goldberg retirement, which is really big. So it's like, that's a big one. That's a really big one. And they've also put themselves in position to where who's going to win? Who's going to, if people watch both, who's going to have the best show? And, the Goldberg retirement is big. Goldberg, it's big. They'll do very well with that as a TV show. But, if you go head to head and somebody else puts on a better show for the swing audience, you did yourself no favors. I know why they're doing it, because they have the mentality that every wrestling promoter has. This is my territory, and I don't want any competition, and I'm going to stuff that competition because I'm the bigger, stronger company right now. But when it doesn't work, you make the other company, the underdog, especially if they start putting on a better product. It is. I don't think this weekend was to WWE's favor at all as far as the NXT thing. Saturday night's main event did a great number, but AEW did great too. But the competition's there. When all was said and done, who do most people think had the better show? It wasn't Saturday night's main event, even though they did a great rating.
All right. You also wanted to talk about Saturday night's main event.
Yeah. So last night when we were talking about the whole thing, I actually got this segment by segment, and lo and behold, I thought that it was CM Punk and John Cena, and maybe Logan Paul, and it was actually Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest in the cage match. It was the cage match that by far, with the younger audience, did the biggest number. Whether that's Jesse or whether it's the idea of a cage match on NBC, which I don't think
it was Jesse.
Well,
my guess is probably a cage match on NBC.
Yeah, I don't think it's Drew and Priest. I think it's the cage. But the cage, which is and again with AEW too. When AEW's did the cage match, they had a big increase too. But this one, their 18-34 number in that quarter, well, actually 2 quarters, was huge, and that's where they really grew. But they, and they were going against, they went against the NBA, which did a big number. And NHL, they did baseball, which they beat baseball by a little bit, but baseball did a really big number on Friday night head-to-head on Fox. They had really hard competition, and they did that number was the 18-34 number went from the last one they did I believe it was an 0.19, and this one did like an 0.36. So we're talking almost double. And 1849 was up 65% from the last show. So, this show was a huge rating success, but the Punk match started off good, very strong. But the big one was the cage match. So there you go.
All right, Alberto.
Okay, also, so the AEW number was...
we'll get to that, but what's up with Alberto?
They did a big angle today with Alberto and El Vikingo. Not El Hijo del Vikingo, but the father. They were on some show, and Alberto beat him up. And I guess I haven't seen the angle. I'll look for it. But apparently it was very convincing because a lot of people, thought it was like, the Letterman and Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler thing 43 years ago, where, they did the angle, and I don't want to say everybody thought it was real because a lot of people didn't. I think even most people didn't. But whatever it was, it's being reported in a lot of places that this is not staged. And, they've got that match on Saturday at One Day La Barrera Gym. So, it's interesting. Alberto is, I mean, that's the basic story. Is that Angle has gotten much mainstream publicity with people thinking that it's maybe real, and it's being reported in many places as is real, even though obviously it's not. So that's building up that their show on Saturday. But the other thing in Mexico is that they're saying that the match is staged, and the Saturday match, and that they already know who's winning. So that's been the negative of the Angle, and I think this is to combat that. I think that's part of the reason they did it, is to go, there's a real fight and these guys really hate each other, and how is Alberto going to do a job in this situation, when like the stakes are this high, he ain't going to let Vikingo's son beat him. So it sounds like it was about as successful as it's going to be. I mean, after that giant faux pas where WWE believed that as long as we don't put it on Netflix in Mexico, no one's going to know. I mean, that's the thing everyone knows. So there you go. Of course.
There is telecommunications in Mexico, I'm afraid.
I think that...
And especially in 2025, I hear.
Yeah. I think that's a mistake that probably they won't make again. Yeah, it's not a killer mistake. It's a mistake. You learn from your mistakes. Although there are people in wrestling that I say that about, and it's like, you learn from your mistakes. And I'm not saying WWE fits this bill, because, the people who I know in WWE obviously learn from their mistakes. But I've seen a lot of people in wrestling, man, they do not learn from their mistakes, because they just repeat them over and over and over again. And try to convince themselves that they weren't mistakes in a lot of places too.
All right, the AEW Dynamite number 636,000 and a .16.
0.16, yeah. They were
the last 45 minutes of the show did very well above average for the last.
Yeah. They actually did. I think they did. I haven't looked at all the quarters, but
they did a .16 and a .18 for the overrun, and they did 705,000 viewers for the end of the Mercedes Tony promo.
The Mercedes Tony promo was the highest rated segment of the entire show, and it was on last. That is very, very rare. They also didn't have a big lead-in either. The lead-in was, I think it's like 0.11 from the Big Bang Theory, maybe 0.12. I think it's 0.11. So the lead-in was down, which is probably why the opening segment wasn't as big as it sometimes is.
It was close. It was 689 and a .19.
For the first segment?
Yeah.
Well, 0.11 to 0.19 that's a big difference.
And then the pattern was basically exactly the same until 9 o'clock was a little bigger than usual, and then from then on out, I mean, normally the show falls off at 9, and this one, there was only one dip for this second part of the Adam Cole-Fletcher match and the Brody King, Josh Alexander at the beginning of that match, and then, it went way up for the last half hour, 618 to 705 in the last half hour.
Yeah. The Mercedes promo, And again, I thought there was a real aura to those two when they were out there. That I expected to be big because they're the two biggest women's stars in the company. But when they were out there together, it was actually bigger than I expected. I think just the way the interaction. I think Mercedes really... I thought Mercedes really did a great job on that. I think she really, I don't say held her own, that's probably the wrong term, but she felt like, to me, more of a star than when she first started there, I think she struggled. It's a different audience. She's trying a lot of things. I think she's got it now. And I think the audience, at first was like, she's WWE, she's blah, blah, blah. And I think that they've accepted she works her ass off, she's good. And she's there with Tony, and Tony's just super over. And she didn't look like a lesser star than Tony at all. They both looked like mega stars next to each other. I mean, this is the biggest women's match that I think for sure that AEW's ever had. As far as build, Tony and Mariah was obviously the biggest, but I think that Tony winning that one, I think Tony's more over now than she's ever been. And I think Mercedes is, just got way more name value than Mariah. So, I mean, even though Mariah and Tony had the better storyline, the bigger, longer storyline, and the better one. But so I think that's I mean, it's a good start. We got 2 months to go. It's a good start, though.
All right, the show opened up with Tony Schiavone calling out Hangman. And Hangman did a long promo, the gist of which is he promised that he will win the AEW title at All In.
I want to mention something that just in case I forget later. I've been working almost all day on the story, on the issue, but the story on the Janelle Grant, John Laurinaitis, Vince McMahon thing, I really researched it a lot, and I think that there is a lot of, I'll just say this, because it's a lot of detailed stuff. It's better to be read. I don't really want to go through it here just because I won't be able to do it justice, honestly. But I'm just saying that you probably want to read it, because when I was writing it, there were some conclusions that I came to. When you look at the timeline, it doesn't necessarily implicate anything. And the short version, which I will say, is that based on the Janelle Grant lawsuit, she and, Vince, whatever, passed her to Johnny, right? Okay. This is at the end of 2020. Okay. Johnny gets hired as the head of talent relations, replacing Paul. At the same time, Janelle is moved to talent relations. At the same time, Vince is doing those crazy texts to Janelle and perhaps Johnny, for all I know, but Janelle, we know. This is all happening at the same time. It was really, I don't think anyone ever put that together. And all of a sudden, it's like, I started thinking, like, when? Like, how does Johnny being hired? And you got to remember, because we talked about it the other day, when we talked about it, and it was, and the deal was the story about how, Johnny had a case in 2012, and Vince paid off the woman for $1.5 million in 2012. And it's like, it is so weird that after that, and when he got replaced as head of talent relations at the time. So he, after this, was moved back to head of talent relations, which obviously we know, and then he lost the job when the Wall Street Journal article came out. I never thought, well, when did he actually get hired to replace Paul? And then I looked at the date, and the date is it's the exact same month that this all happens. So anyway, you can look at all that and draw your own conclusions, and especially, I don't know. It's like Paul Levesque becomes an interesting person in this when you look at that. So anyway, if you want conspiracy theories, I don't have any conspiracy theory on that one, other than
sounds like it.
Not necessarily. But I mean, from a grudge standpoint, yeah, it could be. As far as anything else, it really hit me in the face when I put that timeline together. So there you go.
All right, you ready for this review?
Yes.
All right. Well, Hangman promised to win the title, and then Swerve came out, and Swerve showed footage of the Young Bucks stating that they screwed Swerve because of Hangman. He asked Hangman if this is true. Hangman said, well, if I wanted to cost you the match, I'd have done it to your face because I've done it before. And Swerve says, well, that sounds good, but you're still full of shit. So out comes Will Ospreay, and Ospreay basically does a speech saying, I thought it was me. It wasn't. It's not you, Swerve. It's Hangman. And we have a chance here to save this company, and we all need to work together. Swerve then says, I will never work with this guy. It's not happening. Forget it. He leaves. Everyone boos. Hangman then tells Ospreay, I will not be working with that guy. Not happening. He leaves. And poor Will Ospreay is all alone in the ring trying to figure out how to get these men on the same page. It's a good segment. Good promo work by all the guys.
Yeah, I thought everyone did good promo work, but I think the storyline is excellent. It's more layers than I expected from this.
Well, it's an excellent storyline because I think that most people figure, obviously, this is the show where Hangman beats Jon Moxley for the title. So they want to throw in something to put some doubt in your head, which is working, by the way, because I've seen it. Like, oh my God, what if Moxley wins? That's what you want.
Oh yeah, but I think even more than that, though, it's just it adds depth to every character.